Welcome to Magic the Gathering for Advanced Players. I'm Matt Sperling. Today we're diving into a match between Abe Corrigan and Dom Harvey.
My name is Domino Harvey. I am a bounty hunter.
The Players Championship that SCG put on. And Star City Games put on a really great tournament. I enjoyed watching it. I thought the caliber of play was extremely high. Those videos are available on demand on Twitch if you want to go watch this match in its entirety or other coverage. I thought multiple matches were really engaging, high-level play, multiple formats. So anyways, I'm not sponsored by them. Check out their content if you want to catch up on that Players Championship. But today, we're diving deep into Game 2 of this Simic Flash versus Jund Sacrifice matchup. Let's dive in. I'm going to be jumping from moment to moment in the game rather than show the entire clip. This is because I don't want to be, make a 30-minute game into a 2-hour dialogue. So we're going to jump around important moment to important moment. Okay, turn 3, drill bit cast by Dom. And Dom sees in Abe's hand Anissa, which he takes with the drill bit. But, importantly, Frilled Mystic, Sinister Sabotage in hand. Dom doesn't have a million threats, so he's got to set up for a long game. It starts here on turn 3, and you'll see him during the course of this game basically lean into that castle to start drawing cards as opposed to just walking into counter spells. He plays an excellent game, and it all starts here on turn 2 when he gets information, and he kind of crafts his game plan based on that. All right, now the next important critical moment of the game. Turn 5, you can see here, Dom has spent the first several turns of setting up mana, generating a bunch of food tokens. A couple Witch's Ovens have come into play. Sorcerer's Spyglass is now cast by Abe. And Abe not only gets to turn off those Witch's Ovens in case a cat shows up, but also gets to see God Eternal Bantu and Murderous Rider. And God Eternal Bantu in particular represents a really scary threat. Sack all those food tokens, those dead Witch's Ovens, draw something like 6 or more cards, and really would obviously overrun the handful of counter spells that Abe has. So that becomes kind of a must counter card that now Abe knows about. And Dom still knows about those 2 counters from earlier. So we now have this kind of standoff. Both players actually have a castle in play. Abe's allows scry 2. Dom's allows draw a card. Draw a card, typically a little bit stronger if you can pay the life with all these food. Dom will be able to do that. So we have a really interesting standoff here, and that's going to take us into the next phase of the game. And here we are in the next stage of the game, a few turns later. Players have used castles now to set up, but not deploying a whole lot more to the board. Castles have been taking a toll on Dom's life total, but there's some food out there to kind of counteract that later. Okay, here Nightpack Ambusher joins the board, and Abe really makes his first commitment to the board in the way of a threat. And here in Dom's end step, obviously his plan is just do more food and card draw. That's been his strategy. He sees this Nightpack Ambusher come down. He's got a couple of Swift and Murderous Riders in hand. And taps 3 mana thinking, do I want to blow up this Nightpack Ambusher right now when I can actually win a counter war and do it twice? Ends up actually deciding not to do it in the end step and try to actually make Abe counter it on Abe's turn, which is really smart. So that'll take us to our next, screenshot from the game. So now the Nightpack Ambusher is attacking. Abe drew a land for the turn, and now has to decide: do I let the Nightpack Ambusher go, or do I counter the Swift end? And it's going to be important that we take a look at Abe's hand, and so let's do that. The game state here: Abe has Frilled Mystic, Negate, Sinister Sabotage, Nissa, Island, and Hydroid Krasis. Has not played a land yet, and Swift End is on the stack targeting Nightpack Ambusher. The remainder, Abe's hand rather, is a God Eternal Bantu and 2 unknown cards. So what do you do here? I recommend that you pause the video here and think about what play you would make in this circumstance. Life totals are roughly 20 to 10, that ballpark, and the Nightpack Ambusher just came down. Again, land hasn't been played. If you pause the video, welcome back. If you just want to hear the discussion, here we go. This is, I think, the most interesting turn of the game, the most interesting moment. So there's two paths here, really. I mean, there's fight over Night Pack Ambusher, or there's stick this Nissa out and fight over it. And with the 10th land coming down, it's a really interesting kind of fulcrum in the game, because now Nissa represents negate and Sinister Sabotage backup. The Sinister Sabotage is basically reserved for that Bond 2. Whether you fight over Night Pack Ambusher, or you fight over Nissa, or if you just said go, either way, Sinister Sabotage is not going to be the card you use to protect this Night Pack Ambusher or this Nissa, because, again, negate can't counter Bond 2, and it's hard to hold up Frilled Mystic. So that Sinister Sabotage kind of has this role cut out for it. Here, what Abe decided to do was actually use Frilled Mystic, use the more expensive counterspell, not play Nissa, just say go, and have Sinister Sabotage negate for something like Drill Bit, of which Dom has 4 in the 75. And so that's a good strategy if you want to protect Night Pack Ambusher, and you want to view that as what you want to do. It's interesting. I think I probably would have let Night Pack Ambusher go, because if I protect it, it's not going to make a token this turn. It's attacking, but I think I would have played Nissa, and then with negate to protect it once. The other two cards in hand would have to be, basically removal. Okay, the Nissa's dead, fine. And then now I'm going to try to win with this Krasis later in the game, or draw another Nissa or Night Pack Ambusher. However, if that card's a brick, if it's just some card that's not super useful, then I think that Nissa is fairly likely to take over the game and create. I only have to untap with it once. It kind of lets me go over the top of the castle. So what ended up happening in the game, though, Frilled Mystic countered Swift End. Another Murder Swift End was cast, and the Night Pack Ambusher died. So that's what ended up actually happening. Our next turning point in the game comes several turns later. There's now a Mayhem Devil out here, critically. And just as critically, arguably, Dom has been knocked to 6 life by a 6/6 Krasis and, his own castle activations. So now there's some real life total pressure. There's still 5 food tokens out there, so it's not immediate, danger of lethal. But that's now in play. Mayhem Devil is there, kind of threatening to knock that Frilled Mystic down, at any point, basically by sacking some of these food tokens. Remember that Spyglass is on Witch's Oven, so the Mayhem Devil can't go completely bonkers. And now Dom has cast Trail of Crumbs, and Abe is now thinking about what to do. Let's take a look at what's in Abe's hand. As you can see, Abe's hand is Aether Gust, Hydrate, Krasis, and Sinister Sabotage. Sinister Sabotage is still on Bond 2 duty. And so the question is, Aether Gust, Trail of Crumbs, or not? Again, look at the game state. 6 life, 17 life. Trail of Crumbs is on the stack. You're looking down at this hand. Do you use Aether Gust on Trail of Crumbs, or do you save it? Pause the video and think about what you would do. For anyone who paused it, welcome back. I hope you found one of the interesting lines to think about. The first one I want to talk about is, what if you were to Aether Gust the Mayhem Devil in response to Trail of Crumbs, instead of Aether Gusting the Trail of Crumbs? Well, the opponent could tap Gildagoose once the Trail of Crumbs resolves, sacrifice a food, go back down to 5 food, use the trigger from the Trail of Crumbs to find the Mayhem Devil, recast the Mayhem Devil with 2 untapped Goose only. And at that point, if we Sinister Sabotage, the opponent only has 2 blockers. We have 3 attackers. We have the Hydroid Krasis. The opponent's at 6. The opponent can barely stay alive. They have to block the Frilled Mystic, block one of the Druids, take 8, and sack 3 food to go back up to 9. So that's worth checking, right? Because if they were at 1 life lower, that's a winning line. Now, the opponent doesn't have to recast Mayhem Devil right now, so that's worth thinking about as well. There's a lot to think about. Of course, this is analysis after the game we're going to do. Over the table, you kind of have to make your best guess. But analyzing this after the game, okay, what if the opponent, instead of doing that, just in response, killed off our Frilled Mystic by, let's say, sacking 1 food to gain 3 life, then tapping another Goose, sacking a food. Okay, now the Frilled Mystic's dead, and then sack another food. So now the opponent's at 12, we're at 16, and the Frilled Mystic is dead, but the Mayhem Devil is in hand, or the Mayhem Devil's on top, rather. And so next turn, they're threatening to go Mayhem Devil, Bond 2. But we have Sinister Sabotage for Bond 2. So that doesn't sound so bad to me. Trail of Crumbs at this point, how scary is it? Somewhat scary. I mean, again, Gilded Goose Tap with all that food, it's pretty scary. So this is a really close one. Another thing to consider, what about Aether Gusting at end step? Aether Gust at end step, now the opponent gets to kind of cut down the Frilled Mystic and you'd be using Trail of Crumbs at the same time if they want to. That seems worse. So really it comes down to, do I want to Aether Gust the Trail of Crumbs while it's on stack, or do I want to Aether Gust the Mayhem Devil while Trail of Crumbs is on the stack? So again, we're living on the razor's edge here. It's really, really close. But I think that Aether Gusting the Mayhem Devil in response to Trail of Crumbs is actually a slightly better play. I think that the opponent is likely to view it as, well, I better get that Frilled Mystic off the board now. If I try to have my cake and eat it too and just activate the Goose once Trail resolves, get the Mayhem Devil, if it gets countered, I'm going to be so close to dying that it's pretty dangerous. And if they end up doing that, then again, we get to kill 2 geese, put them to 1. We don't have our Sinister Sabotage anymore, but Bantu is not guaranteed to win the game when the opponent's at 1 and now doesn't have all that mana, so kind of mana constrain the opponent. In our upkeep at that point, we can use our Castle Vantress to try to find a counter spell to counter Bantu. I like that play. In all the lines in which the opponent says, you know what, I'm going to gain some life right now so I don't end up in that scenario, Mayhem Devil stays on top or stays in my hand from Trail of Crumbs, yes, they get to, get some card advantage, but now Mayhem Devil's not on the board. We can now tap our Paradise Druids. So it's very subtle. But if that's in the hand, the Paradise Druids are now free to tap. We can scry 2 end step. Our deck has a lot of counterspells in it. So we can try to find a second counterspell. Now we can try to counter Mayhem Devil and counter whatever 2 things our opponent can afford to do next turn. And we're in a pretty good spot. We can sneak in a Krasis for 3 or 4 in addition to having our 2 counters, assuming we scry into something. If we don't scry into something, we can even upkeep scry and try to find a second counter. So that's 5 cards to see. I think that line performs better than doing the Trail of Crumbs. In the game, Abe ended up going Trail of Crumbs. Again, it's a really close call. I think it's slightly worse, but for reasons that are so subtle and so involved that you really can't fault Abe for not finding them over the board, even if you agree that they're correct. So I found this to be a super interesting spot. To close out the game, I'm just going to play the video so you can watch how the game ends. It's an interesting end of the game. I thought both players played well overall and showed to their top players. Fun event. So thanks for following with me along in this journey. If you like this channel, Magic the Gathering for Advanced Players, please hit the subscribe button, but enjoy the end of the match.
We're watching a game here in which Abe Corrigan has not cast a Growth Spiral in either game.
No.
One of the namesake and most important cards in this deck. Now, didn't get a great look at that draw step, but I think it may have finally been a Drill Bit.
Yeah, but Corrigan's now at a spot where Drill Bit might not be good enough because he has 2 counter spells. You're against it the same way.
Yeah, if he does have 2 counter spells, you're all done here, Dom. Unfortunately for him. 20-1. Those are the life totals here. Advantage Abe Corrigan in a very meaningful way. And for Dom Harvey, he's got to be thinking to himself, I had that matchup against Abe earlier, where if I just would have beaten him, he'd be headed out. He would have been out of the tournament already. I was up a game, and the matchup I wanted to play, Titan Shift versus Bant Urza. I wasn't able to get it done then, and he's having some real difficulty getting it done now. Down a game is Harvey. Drill Bit finally showed up, but it looks like it may be too little too late. Harvey's going to sacrifice a food token. Mayhem Devil Trigger is going to go upstairs, so there is a mana floating, and there is the Drill Bit for the spectacle cost.
Combo.
It is a combo.
Look how free that was.
Well, this is interesting because Corrigan has not made his move yet. And I think Corrigan may only have 1 hard counter in hand right now in Sinister Sabotage. I think he was hoping that Hydro Krasis would yield him something additional.
Yeah, then you would be covered against Drill Bit.
Mm-hmm. So there's the hand. Sinister Sabotage, at least 1 copy of Growth Spiral. Yeah, I'm seeing a hand without a counterspell now.
Yep.
And so now we're going to cast Guide Eternal Bond too. Let's see what this is. This is Growth Spiral Hope to hit, maybe? Though I don't know what we can hit, because Quench won't do it. So here's the Spiral. There may be something to hit there. It's not Sorcerer's Spyglass. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Combo's incoming here.
So this is a lot of damage. If he sacrifices everything, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, that's lethal.
3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah.
That's actual lethal if this gets through. Oh, my goodness. Are we actually looking at lethal damage here?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be, I think they're confirming life totals now.
the Guy Eternal Bantu plus Mayhem Devil special. He's going to get it done. Yeah, and Abe is, oh my gosh, we're going to play a third game? Are we actually going to play a third game? We are actually going to play a third game. Wow. He finally drew the drill bit to get it through. It was not too little too late. Corrigan only had one counterspell and Sinister Sabotage, and Dom Harvey is still alive.